Hey everyone, let's dive right into this explainer. Have you ever thought about how where you watch a movie completely changes how you experience it? We usually just think of a movie as this fixed piece of art, right? But the truth is, the medium and the actual room we're sitting in fundamentally alter the message. Today, we're going to explore this massive clash between the idealized movie theater and the very different and sometimes super compromised reality of watching films right in our own living rooms. To kick things off, listen to this absolutely wild analogy from the text. It says, seeing a movie in a good theater is like diving into heavy surf with the tide coming in. Seeing a movie on a standard television screen is like taking a sponge bath out of a gallon pail. I mean, that perfectly nails it, doesn't it? It really highlights that completely immersive, almost overwhelming physical sensation of the theater versus the contained, kind of diluted experience of watching at home.
Okay, Section 1, the ideal theater experience and the imperfect reality.
We all know the dream, right? We crave that proper environment. We want the plush stadium seating, the state-of-the-art projection, and the deep social ritual of experiencing art with a crowd. But let's be real for a second. The actual reality? It's often pretty messy. You finally get to the theater and you're dealing with noisy patrons talking right over the best scenes, people aggressively rattling their candy wrappers, and of course, cell phones ringing out of nowhere. So yeah, the ideal is pristine, but the public reality is definitely imperfect. But even with all those annoyances, you really can't deny the primal magic of a crowd. It's like that classic moment in Woody Allen's Annie Hall, where the characters are interacting with offbeat moviegoers in a ticket line. They're sharing laughs and groans with what's called a mirror audience. Just being surrounded by strangers reacting to the exact same visual and auditory stimuli, it creates this shared energy that you just literally cannot replicate by yourself on the couch. Actually, actor Richard Dreyfuss hit the nail on the head regarding this. He argues that when we sit in a darkened theater, we're basically holding hands with strangers in an almost religious experience. We completely surrender to it. But he says if it's on TV, who cares? Without that dark room and massive screen, television is just ignorable furniture. It's sitting right next to the fridge or a houseplant, so it completely loses that primal impact. Moving right along to Section 2, squeezing the big screen. Think about the sheer scale for a minute. When we watch at home, historically, we're taking a massive, immersive 20-foot-high theater image and literally shrinking it down to a 2-foot box. That drastic reduction in size physically distances us from the story. It makes it so much harder to get fully sucked into the narrative like we do in a cinema. It completely changes how we process huge spectacles. Just imagine watching an epic 2005 movie like King Kong. When you put giant battling apes and dinosaurs on a tiny screen way across the living room, it severely decreases our visceral involvement. The events just feel remote, locked safely behind a little pane of glass, rather than happening all around us. And because of that distance, we literally lose the physical thrill. You know that stomach-dropping feeling you get in a theater? Like actual motion sickness during the intense horse races in Seabiscuit? Or those crazy, soaring Quidditch matches in Harry Potter? Because it feels so remote at home, that visceral sensation is almost entirely lost. Now, the physical size isn't the only thing taking a hit here. The actual shape of the movie gets compromised too, thanks to an editing process called panning and scanning. You basically try to cram a massive widescreen rectangle into a small, squarish TV screen, and in the process, crucial visual information is just totally lost. Here's the frustrating reality of how this works. First, a scanner hunts for the important stuff in the original widescreen frame. Then, producers center that peripheral information for the TV broadcast, which means they literally slice off a massive chunk of the original picture from the sides. It completely mutilates the cinematographer's original vision. Oh, and sometimes it even adds fake camera pans to track the action, introducing movements the director never even intended.
All right, let's switch gears. Section 3, the audio environment.
Historically, if you think the picture suffered at home, the audio was actually way worse. A movie theater uses multiple speakers to entirely envelop you in sound, but old-school televisions, they had notoriously awful, inadequate speakers. Many didn't even have basic tone controls, so instead of being immersed, you were just getting this flat, single-point audio coming directly at your face. To put that into perspective, think about the iconic Jurassic Park T-Rex rumble. In a theater, you literally feel the dramatic shifting volume as a massive dinosaur stomps back and forth all around the room. On a standard, older TV set, you completely miss that spatial audio. You lose the terrifying physical presence of a monster walking right past your seat in the dark. Which brings us to Section 4, the DVD revolution and home redemption. Now, it's not all doom and gloom for the living room. Director David Cronenberg takes a completely different stance than Richard Dreyfuss. He absolutely loves home media. He says the idea that you could possess a movie like a book on your bookshelf is fantastic. Now you can have a genuinely cinematic experience at home and have it in your control. So rather than seeing it as compromised furniture, Cronenberg sees home tech as this incredible, empowering tool for viewers.
And this exact shift sparked a massive wave of what experts call cineliteracy. Suddenly, because of the insane storage capacity of formats like the DVD, viewers were being completely re-educated. We got amazing picture and sound, the ability to choose widescreen options, outtakes, deep dive behind-the-scenes documentaries, and of course, those movie-length director's commentaries. Basically, watching a movie at home transformed from a compromised sponge bath into an interactive masterclass-level film school.
So we'll wrap up this explainer with a pretty wild thought from Cronenberg. He asks, is this technology really an extension of our bodies and our minds into the universe, which then comes back to change us? As our screens get flatter, our resolution gets sharper, and home audio gets insanely good, how is having all this cinematic control going to further change us as viewers? It's a fantastic question to chew on. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. And definitely think about the power of your screen the next time you press play.